Virginia pine.
Hello, and welcome to the Saladcast on Sunday, the 2nd of August, 2015. I'm your host, Dan Train. Joining me today, Zachary Burgess.
Way.
And Robert Kemp.
Way.
Just pitch it down.
It was more to reflect the state of my well-being today.
Okay.
That was quite an enthused way from Zeg there.
Way.
Well, yes, that's what I was trying to infer about what happened yesterday.
Hey! What on earth happened yesterday?
What did happen yesterday? I remember far too much of it. It was my stag night, and I got very, very drunk.
Surely that's the idea. And we
Yeah.
succeeded.
Success was had on pretty much almost every checkbox you would normally associate with stag parties, except for the crap ones.
Yeah, we didn't check the crap ones. I mean, we checked a couple of crap ones, but we're trying to avoid them in general.
What, just throwing up in a club count as a crap one?
Yes, I would say so. I think it's a mainstay, isn't it?
I was just adding to that place's ambiance.
You really were. That place was disgusting enough already, I don't think.
Yeah.
But I don't think you really changed the ambiance much.
I added texture to the 90s garage that was playing.
Oh my god. Worst place ever. But we were in there a total of about 5 minutes, I think, weren't we?
Pretty much, yeah.
Slightly longer.
And for some people, unfortunately, you could... Well, yeah, slightly longer, because I was in there for about 5 minutes before I had a problem.
Yep.
A very
problem has occurred.
a very sudden onset of spew. It was like, I was totally fine. I was like, I've recovered from my previous moment of trouble where I was basically just full of everything and couldn't take no more. It wasn't the alcohol content I was worried about at that point. It was just pure amount of stuff filling my stomach.
Stuff inside you.
And then I got over that. And then I thought that was the end of it. And it's like, oh, I've got through the worst of it now. Time to have a good time. Oh no. Suddenly, chunks happened. Into my own glass.
Oh.
So
grim.
There's a number of details to this that we'd sort of remembered later. And that Barlow, our friend JB, tried to explain to me later. That obviously I tried to control this for a while. And so the first few, shall we say, convulsions I managed to contain within my mouth. And disgustingly re-swallow.
Oh, grim.
But then when I realised that there was too much entering my cheeks to contain, I ended up using
hamster.
Yeah, I ended up using the glass in front of me, which I then when that filled up
to the top.
I'm pretty sure I just left that on the bar.
Oh no! Oh well.
Oh dear.
Yes, good times.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I wholeheartedly don't recommend it.
So you're fully prepared to be wed in 2 weeks' time?
Yes, I have been through my rite of passage. I now no longer want to be that guy.
So, Zeg, I thought you would leave much earlier, but you pretty much stayed for the entire thing, because after we went in that horrible place, we only stayed there for 5 minutes before this happened.
Mm.
And I missed that as well, because I didn't actually see it happen.
It might have been slightly longer than 5 minutes, because when I was leaving, getting a ride, we had to sit outside for quite a while until Josh came back out.
Oh yeah.
Which was a good one.
Yes, he was summoned.
It was just like, where's he gone? It was like, well, obviously he's gone inside, hasn't he?
Why were you waiting for him there?
Because he was getting a lift back.
Because he was meant to be coming with us, not going in there.
Okay.
But then now he's just like, he saw parties and just walked straight into the party.
Straight into the party. Yeah. Well, who
like
can blame him?
Like a moth to the sticky flame.
To the grim Ipswich flame. Oh, God, can you imagine? That must be like that every Saturday. Anyway, never mind. I'm a long way from there. It's okay.
So yes, I'm sure there will be videos floating around at some point of the Kinder Egg and pork pie challenges.
You did well on the pork pie challenge, Rob.
Which was effectively to eat half of a very large pork pie with no hands.
Yeah.
It helped that it was a properly delicious pork pie. It's like every part of that pork pie was amazing, apart from perhaps the large jelly chunk that fell out. It's like the problem was when the pork pie jelly stuff, which I've never quite understood why is that there. Like when that came out, and it was just like because it was on its own. It's like I can't quite bring myself to target that piece.
Yeah, what is that jelly stuff about?
I don't know.
Zeg, is it like? Do you know? Or it must be some kind of important constituent. Like
no, I don't know.
It's obviously a meat thing, isn't it? The gelatin stuff or whatever comes from the animal or whatever. The process of making it, I guess.
Gelatin or something. Yeah,
but they must put it in on purpose, like slather it on purpose to like bond the pastry with the. But it's too thick.
Is it a moistness thing? Does it contain the moistness of the meat?
There's got to be a reason.
I actually don't know.
Because that's the obvious problem with pork pies, right? If you're a kid and you're like,
so what's got jelly? Yeah, but it depends. Like, because if you're like a kid, are all jelly products good no matter where you find them?
Not jelly that tastes like meat, or not like meat, as the case may be.
Yeah.
Not enough like meat. If it did just taste like meat, it would probably be fine. You wouldn't even notice it.
Apparently, you can get a pork pie jelly injector. I'm trying to look up what's the deal with this jelly.
What? And where do you inject? Into the pie? Or just into whatever?
I don't know.
Whatever food. Just need a bit of jelly in there. Stick it in your potatoes. Mystery.
Apparently, it was a sealant as a way of stopping, as preservation. So it would stop outside forces getting in, such as bacteria and stuff.
Yeah. Okay.
Preventing the meat from spoiling. But then that begs the question. Okay,
right.
Yeah. Why have they just keep it because that's an essential part of the Melton Mowbray recipe and the Melton Mowbray Council, whatever they have, just like doesn't allow you to say you're a Melton Mowbray pie unless you have the jelly layer.
I'm sure that's probably true. You probably can't. But who cares? Surely then, like, if they were better, the pies without the jelly layer, then Melton Mowbray would be screwed.
Yeah.
Everyone would you'd pick a different name. Like Melton No Jelly.
Melton No Jelly. No, yeah. Your one was better.
It wasn't. It didn't.
Yeah, so the pork pie challenge. Kinder Egg challenge was fun as well, which is exactly the same thing, but with a Kinder Egg with foil.
Yeah, but your one was totally like unfair. That one,
yeah,
they didn't know, but it was totally stacked against you because your opponent's toy had two pieces that slotted together instantly to form a toy. Like, if I was a kid, I'd be really disappointed in that as a Kinder Surprise toy. There's no real assembly required.
Well, I thought they'd given up even doing assembly in these things, but apparently they hadn't.
Yeah, because I thought they went for those collectible statues, like we'll have series of.
Well, I thought it was they'd had like a problem with choking hazards, where it was just like we can market this to younger children if we have just one solid piece that's less of a choking hazard.
Yeah, good point. Whereas my one was quite fiddly. Lots of little pieces that could quite easily be swallowed and shat out later.
I'm pretty sure that you like even with the size of pieces that they have now that they can't like they're banned in Canada or America or something because of the choking hazard. It's like they have slightly different rules that don't allow that small pieces.
Is that what that forced Kinder to diversify somewhat?
Possibly.
Into like their I don't know, they just do those Kinder sticks now. Yeah. Well, I quite like Kinder Bueno. I quite like those.
What makes it Bueno? I can't remember.
It's like it's that weird Kinder
paste.
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah, I can't eat that.
No, you can't. But it's got that it's like a hazelnut paste that's also made with that weird, I don't know, the white layer of a Kinder Egg chocolate. You know.
Yeah. Muy bueno.
Muy bueno.
It's gross.
Kinder Bueno. I quite like this. They're good.
I can't believe I downed a pint of Guinness. I don't even drink Guinness.
That's pretty.
It was actually fine. It wasn't too I don't know. I don't
know. I don't think I could have done that. Like, just because I don't know. I find Guinness so thick that it's super hard to actually properly drink.
Yeah, but it wasn't as bad as I thought. But I think had Jonathan not been disqualified, he still probably would have been.
He just couldn't wait. He saw the Guinness and thought,
he just
I'm
downed
having
it
that.
instantly. Yeah,
I'm having that. Competition void. Also, it has to be said, I'm somewhat impressed that after years and years of us clearly stating that Zach was not capable of a press up,
yeah,
he managed 3.
Well, me clearly stating it.
Sort of. Yours were better than who were you up against?
Kippers.
Yeah, Kippers failed completely.
But he still managed to do 5 of whatever he was doing.
Of whatever he was doing, where his back was completely arched over and his ass was like miles in the air.
Yeah, pretty much. I think he was mostly floor thrusting than pushing up.
But Zach, I mean, is it? I don't know. Is it not harder for Zach to press up than because he's so tall? I don't know, and his arms are longer. I don't know.
Do you reckon is there more or less leverage? Well, presumably, right, when you do a press up, is it if it was in pure leverage terms and you formed a perfectly straight line, like if you're taller, does that make it easier because you're pushing up at the end that moves further? Because levers.
I guess if you're the same weight, then yeah, maybe.
Well, it depends what proportion of the weight is actually in your body versus your legs. Like where the center of gravity is along the line.
Stomach and ass. And head, I guess. Depends if you're super bulky up top, then...
Yeah, but if you do more press-ups, you're going to get more bulky up top, aren't you? Yeah. I guess that's the idea, though, isn't it?
Well, that's the idea. It's just like it's self-fulfilling in a way. You can never... I guess you could get better at press-ups, but at the same time, it's like it gets harder for you the more you do it, in a way. I bet it actually gets easier, but you're still,
it definitely gets easier.
You're still actually just lifting more weight as your arms get buff, I guess.
Yeah, it's mostly your pecs, right? Not your arms.
I don't know, actually.
Yeah, mysteriously it is. I don't know quite the mechanics of that, but it's mostly your like pectoral muscles.
Because aren't your pecs effectively just for like? I'll say you were doing a giant seal clap. It's like that's the pecs are the ones that are bringing your arms in sort of laterally.
Are they? Well, yeah, I guess. Well, maybe
that's what you're doing in a press up, technically, aren't you? Because you're unbending your arms, so the upper arms are going straight.
Yeah.
I suppose that's.
I was saying to Zeg, it's annoying because I do press ups or whatever, but I don't do anything that. I haven't got any. Well, I do have weights, but I don't really like using them. But there's no good like resistance training for like biceps or whatever. So unless you have like a chin up bar, and I don't have one that I can like put on my door frame or whatever.
I don't know, can't you just curl to do biceps?
Yeah, you can, but then you need the weights.
Yeah.
There's no. Whereas push-ups, you don't need any equipment of any kind.
No, I guess. Yeah.
So there's no resistance training unless you have a bar to pull yourself up on.
Get a tree.
Or to do chin-ups on.
Yeah, or a substantial
branch.
Door frame. I don't know.
Yeah. It's all about the door frame. But then I can't do it in my room. It has to be like out half with the door open. Like half outside my room. That's
true. Unless you've got a fitted wardrobe, maybe that will work. Like with a lip on the inside.
I do have a wardrobe, but I don't think there'd be space. Anyway, I don't want to break my wardrobe.
You need one of those well, I suppose this also doesn't solve your problem, but one of those street parks. Park gyms, I mean.
Park gym.
Street parks.
A street park named Desire.
It's just where the kids are, like, playing in the road, basically. It's a street park.
Car. Game on.
Kick the can.
Car. I need to watch Wayne's World again.
Was that from Kick the Can, where there was like a set of complicated rules for it or something? Is that Pete and Pete?
Could well be. I don't remember all the episodes of Pete and Pete. That got quite weird in it. I don't remember much about Archie, the strongest man
in the world.
Sounds like Jeremy Clarkson now, doesn't it?
Yeah. In the world. Jeremy, the strongest man in the world. I'm assuming you won't Well, actually, you're the one that might actually be able to watch Top Gear.
No, I don't have
now.
the Amazon thing. I cancelled the Amazon. I had Amazon Prime
Oh,
for
yes,
years,
you
but I
had it,
cancelled
yes.
it when they started doing the video and they upped the price or doubled the price. I was like, nope, screw that.
Yeah, it should definitely still be like. We've talked about this before, but all the Amazon levels should be like opt-in, and
Yeah,
pay what you use.
screw you guys. I'm buying Netflix. Probably. I still haven't done that, but I will do. I've got Spotify now, full on premium, dude. Spotify.
Oh my god!
I was on that secret £5 a month tier, but I decided I actually do want it on my mobile, and it does work because you just say, make this available offline, and it downloads it all, and then you can listen to it on the tube, which is cool.
Yeah, I don't know. Subscription music still doesn't sound nice. I like to have my music.
Yeah, I know. I have the same feeling. It's weird. I was saying that to Sharon and Bob at the party because, of course, they're like, I like to have physical records or CDs, and I was like, yeah, I'm the same, but from in a digital way. Like my generation is like, I like to have the files even if they don't actually exist.
The Amazon Auto Rip thing's cool. It's like, so now if you buy a CD from them or something, they'll be like, oh yeah, by the way, you can just download all the MP3s for this if you want.
Yeah, that's cool.
Which is like, so you can buy the CD, have the physical CD, which is always nice, and then get the files too. That's cool. And it's like, I didn't notice until the other day, but I logged into my Amazon account and they were like, oh yeah, hey, by the way, do you remember all those discs you've bought over the years? Yeah, we've now auto ripped them.
Right, so they're ready to go.
Yeah.
Because you have your copy of garbage version 2.0 or something.
No, I think that was pre-Amazon. I think that
probably an HMV purchase, that one.
Yeah. Asda. When Asda used to have a music section.
Did they not still?
Actually, they probably still do.
CDs,
but yeah,
probably.
But I remember it used to be like really big and have like TV screens and stuff showing music videos, and it seemed very 80s. Probably because it was near the 80s. I don't know.
Nearer the 80s.
Nearer the 80s. Sure. Yeah, so I thought that was kind of cool. Which actually has the very cheeky side effect of, hey, I bought most of these CDs as gifts for people, but now I have all their files too.
Have them.
Aha!
Yeah. To be fair, you used to do that thing of opening them and ripping them and then giving them as gifts. Yes, you did. You did it more than once. I know. I remember it happening. I can't remember what the CD was. Yeah, j'accuse.
I don't remember doing that.
Yeah.
I remember asking after the fact and being all like, can I rip your disc?
Maybe it was only once. Sorry, I don't mean to besmirch your character. But I think it definitely happened.
I really can't remember that. But never mind. I can't remember a lot of things.
Especially after Saturday.
Speaking of which, unless there's anything else to talk about, can anyone remember any news?
News. What's going on in the world of what?
What this podcast is about.
What's that?
You removing this thing from being a thing very much on purpose.
I can't even remember.
Oh man, this is a podcast about video games.
Oh yeah, okay. Video game news. What do we got? Windows 10 launched, didn't it?
Apparently.
News?
Has anyone actually got it yet?
I haven't got it. I haven't got the notification.
No.
I've still got the thing, but it hasn't told me I need to, which is cool because I've got my new SSD, but I haven't been bothered to do all the transferring stuff, and I'm probably not going to have time to do it for a few weeks. So that's cool. But I want to try it.
Microsoft are being quite, boastful about this, aren't they? Saying, "Oh, dude, this is the largest software upgrade in history."
Well, fair enough. Might as well take your own one if you can.
Yeah, might well be true.
Yeah, sure. I mean, obviously, all that's in the news is tiny little weird problems. Like do you see that somebody found an error message that just said as a heading, it said something happened, and then as a subheading, it said something happened.
That's great. It's my kind of error message.
Yeah.
But the thing is right, if you told Microsoft about it, there's probably only one place in the code where the phrase something happened actually comes up.
Yeah, you could just Google, grep through for something happened, yeah. I usually put, if I can't think of an error message, I usually put oh God, how did this happen? I'm not good with computer. That's my that's my standard exception.
Do you import the GIF though? That's the only way. That's the best error mark. You can import the GIF onto it as well.
I haven't had a chance. I want to put error betatain improper coding somewhere, but I haven't had a chance to do that yet.
I've always wanted to just have a picture of me face palming. Just the error message box that comes. I'm just like, oh. Or maybe I should just replace that with the Picard face palm.
Sure.
And then get sued.
I don't think you get sued for that.
For putting Picard in a commercial product, and I think I might.
Maybe, yeah. Anyway. So Windows 10, I mean, I want to try it, but what's been the news about it? Something about it giving out your Wi-Fi password or something?
Yeah, something weird about Wi-Fi Sense, can supposedly... I think it's meant to be a feature.
Yeah,
in that, people on your Skype list, for instance, it can give them your Wi-Fi password for when they're in your house or something. So it's all like, oh yeah, it's fine. I'll just connect you up, no problem. It sounds kind of neat in theory, but not everyone on your Skype list is probably someone you trust with your
if you
house.
Explicitly want to share that, yeah. If you want it to be opt-in or whatever. It sounds kind of cool as a feature, but obviously privacy concerns there.
It's one of those things that if Windows 10 was in charge of your router, for instance, and maybe there was a way of saying, when someone tried to connect to your router, it's like, yeah, it's fine, just allow these devices to work if they're also registered in some way. Maybe if it was another Windows 10 device or something, it could verify with it and say, yeah, no, that's fine. I know what this device is.
Yeah. Indeed.
But then how would you define I know what this device is? Ooh, I don't know. Probably Microsoft IDs. Ooh. That's a bit weird.
So I don't know about if there's any news on the gaming tip with Windows 10. I think everything mostly works for sure. And also DirectX 12 isn't...
Well, it's not really done yet.
Not really done yet, so you have to wait on that one. But according to... Rock, Paper, Shotgun say... should you upgrade to Windows 10? Mostly, yes. So, yeah.
Oh, yeah. People have been using the preview program. Have repeatedly said there's nothing wrong with it. Just do it.
Yeah. So, I'm quite looking forward to checking that out. So that's a bit of news, sort of vaguely. Zach, are you going to kind of upgrade from 7 or whatever you're on?
No, almost certainly not. Not until I don't know. Not
Service
until
Pack 1.
my hard drive crashes again. I don't know. Yeah, or Service Pack 1. I guess that also is my
There won't be a Service Pack 1.
No, there sort of is, but they're not calling them service packs anymore. I think they're calling them service updates, and they happen very frequently.
Yeah.
So they will all be numbered, 1, 2, 3, 4, blah, 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 but there's happening. I think they've already got the first one scheduled to happen in about a month. So right. They're not really the same thing anymore.
I saw a couple of mainstream stuff, BBC review of it and stuff, and they had pointed out some weird things, like in the new Edge browser, you can't right click and save as or something on a link.
Oh, really? That's a bit odd.
For a file. It's okay. So obviously there's gonna it's quite bare bones, that browser still. But I still think it's cool that they've done that. Edge.
I think stuff like that will come into its Edge, and some of Windows 10's approach will come into its own when they start doing when Cortana becomes a little bit more competent.
Yeah.
I admittedly I don't know what Cortana on Windows is capable of doing, because it's a little, as I say, it's a little bare bones on the phone. It does some cool stuff when it knows what you're talking about. If it's regarding, I don't know, certain functions on the phone, like GPS or phone calls and stuff, and you attach reminders to people for when they're in the vicinity, you can do all of that. That's kind of neat. But if you want to ask it I don't know, Google Now or the typical Siri type questions that people like testing it out on, it has absolutely no idea. And just goes, I did a web search for something. And it's it doesn't have all that depth of knowledge about, I actually kind of semantically know what this thing is and just tell you an answer. I mean, that's what I want from these assistants. I don't necessarily want to go to a web page. I want it to just tell me the answer of a question. Like I was asking a person.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's the hope, isn't it?
I mean, it's there are certain things about my contact list that you can't even ask it. I tried to ask it for the phone number for someone, and it didn't understand what I meant and Google searched that person. And it's like, no, that's not what I'm asking. It's like, I just wanted to say, give me the contact number for someone. And it was like,
just by looking up in your contacts or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. I just wanted it to pull it up on screen. And yeah, it didn't know how to do that.
Yeah, please don't Bing it. Thanks.
Yeah. I just binged myself.
So, yeah. There you go. Windows. News. What else we got?
News.
Something about worms.
What?
Like Team 17 announced a game. Guess what game?
Another worms.
Yeah. I don't know.
How long ago was the last one? The last one was on Xbone, I think, late last year, I want to say.
There might have been one earlier this year.
Oh, really?
It says it has concealing buildings, only granting internal vision to players with a worm inside, and it has tanks.
Okay.
Drivable hopping tanks. And it's meant to feel a bit like Worms Armageddon.
Aren't they all, though? Hasn't that been the goal ever since Worms Armageddon? It's just like, how can we not make this feel like Worms Armageddon again?
I was supposed to say since Worms 2, isn't it? Because Worms 2 is basically the blueprint for every game that has followed, apart from the 3D ones. Trade.
Well, there you go.
It's been a while since we've been able to say that.
Worms WMD, which is in excellent taste, of course.
That's a pretty great name, actually.
The art style looks kind of nice, I guess.
Was it? Worms Battlegrounds was the last one I heard of, but they did do a remastered version of World Party, which was the Dreamcast one.
Right.
Why would they remake World Party? I don't quite understand. That was oh no, I'm not sure that's actually come out yet. It's on this list that I'm looking at as this year.
So there, news. That looks okay for a Worms game. So vaguely exciting.
Well, yes, they are starting, and this is very much I guess this isn't a bit that bigger thing to say, but they are starting to introduce new elements, which they haven't really done for a very, very long time.
Yeah, well, that's two quite new things. Buildings.
Well, yeah, because the last one introduced water as an element within the levels.
Right.
So there were some fluid mechanics going on, so you could, flood worms out and stuff by opening holes for the pools to drain into and stuff like that. So, they're adding stuff. Maybe they need to just be wait a few years and then add all of these changes into one game rather than all these little ones constantly that no one really care about. I mean, I think that's the problem. There's so much worm saturation that no one cares anymore, right? It's just like this. It has been that way. I'm just looking at this list, and there's pretty much been a game every year since 2003.
Right. No, I mean, come on.
Take your time, man. Love your games.
So that's Worms news.
Well,
other news. Let's see. Heart of Gaming got burgled.
Oh man, yeah.
Did you see this?
I did see this.
Yeah, we went there, didn't we?
We did go there, and it's it's not that we have I have the ability to go there very often. It's not like we're particularly regular patrons. Not that we wouldn't want to be, I suppose. But it's more that it's more a big deal, I think, or more a loved thing because of the reason why it exists and what it's trying to do for to keep arcades that whole community spirit of the old arcade and making sure gamers aren't isolated people.
Indeed.
And they got burgled, and the thieves made away with about £5,000 worth of console kit.
Apparently, they took all the new consoles.
Yeah, they took all the new consoles and left all the old ones. All the Rock Band kit, for instance, was still there, but the Xbox to which it was attached is gone.
You can't sell Rock Band guitars at this point.
Yeah, probably not. But that's the best part of this story. If the best part is the phrase to use, in that they didn't actually damage any of the arcade equipment, which is the stuff that would be very, very difficult to replace.
Yeah.
And also fucking
if not impossible
to steal.
Well, yes, true. Because they're all legit cabinets. They're the ones they have. Ones that are like professional arcade machines.
And it sounds like they have a good discipline of just not keeping any money in the machines at all. So
Yeah. Well, there's no need to.
No.
Everything's on free play. So yeah, it's a real shame. But the feel good part of this story is just how quickly the community responded. They put up a I forget what the service was, but it was one of those donation sites. And they basically just put a little campaign up there, and for the £5,000 of stuff that was lost, and that basically succeeded. I think within a couple of days of just randoms. Like, I was watching it at some points, just reading the comments that they've got in. Most of the donations, I think, came from people that had never been, but just appreciate what they're trying to do.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
It's like, that's cool, man.
Yeah, it is cool. Yeah. So I'm sure we'll probably go there again at some point, and hopefully
definitely
fully recovered. Thanks.
Not to encourage the thieves to return, but it sounds like they're probably going to end up with a much sweeter arrangement than what they had before.
Right. Cool. So that's that news. I have some dumb news here, which I think is within the last 2 weeks. I'm not sure. We don't think we discussed it before, but the guy who plays Mac in It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia is going to be directing the Minecraft movie.
Right. There's a Minecraft movie?
Yeah.
I knew there was the Telltale game. I didn't realize there was a film.
Yeah. So, Minecraft is a massive thing, I guess. But, I mean, yeah, you'd think like Microsoft would be very careful now owning it to make sure they got that kind of thing right. But I guess, if you could do a Lego movie, I'm sure you can do a Minecraft movie.
Sure. I mean,
as long as you have the right talent behind it. But
it's one of those things, right? The actual setting isn't as important as what you write into that setting.
Exactly. So it could be super cool. I mean, I don't know how I can't conceive of how they do it, but then I didn't really know how they do a Lego movie that was,
not tied to a franchise or
exactly. And they pulled that off amazingly, those guys.
Yep.
And I don't know, how Sunny has, I can't wrap my mind around how that kind of creativity translates to, a Minecraft movie. I really like that show, but it's obviously not kid-friendly. You've seen it, right, Rob? In fact...
I'm not sure I have,
I think I made you watch that one episode where they were in the restaurant.
Oh, no, I do remember this. Yes, you did,
Yeah.
you did make me watch that, yes.
Yeah. Anyway, so that should be interesting.
Maybe when the Telltale game comes out, we'll have more of a clue what you can actually do with Minecraft stories. I mean, theoretically,
maybe.
you could do anything, but, does that make it a Minecraft movie at that point?
Do you reckon they'll go for, a consistent tone in the same way that Lego has kind of crafted its own tone?
Possibly.
With, starting with the slapstick, and then which they've sort of carried on to their now speakies.
Do you think Steve will be in it?
Well, they've said Steve isn't in the Telltale one, or at least
Right,
or at least he's not one of the main cast. He'll probably turn up in the background. He'll probably be like one of those, he's just always there doing stuff in the background.
Right.
That's what I hope, anyway. Just opening portals to the Nether at random for some slapstick background comedy. Oh, wait, that's the Lego games. Oh.
Yes. Well, I'll have to wait and see on that one. It'll probably be years. That'll probably be development hell for a while. I wouldn't be surprised.
Oh, sure.
Although, it's insane, the reach of Minecraft. It's ridiculous. I don't know if I was telling you, but we were... Kat was babysitting her, niece, who's 8 or 9 or something, and she was all over Minecraft on the iPad, obsessed with it, basically. It's amazing to see.
Oh yeah, I think I know of fewer kids that have no attachment to Minecraft whatsoever than people than kids that do.
And the thing is, first person controls on an iPad is really weird. I think.
Yeah.
I don't know if I could play that, and yet she was all going crazy for it. So I don't know.
Well, according to the Minecraft webpage, 20 million people have bought the PC/Mac version.
20 million.
Okay.
That's a large number. I wonder how many of those are actually people purchases, or if they were licenses they needed to buy to set up a number of kiosks at a school or at an event or something like. These are the Minecraft stage.
Well, that's not going to make much of an impact on 20 million, is it?
No, it depends. I don't know. Well, I guess not. I suppose that's 20 million across all versions of the game as well.
Well, PC and Mac.
Oh, just PC and Mac, like not even the like Xbox edition.
Because it can't record that, because it's recording it by the Minecraft website where you create your account. So that's actually counting the accounts.
Gotcha. Huh. That's a big ass number.
Minecraft news.
Do you reckon Minecraft might become the biggest selling game of all time? Like,
isn't it already? I mean, no. What is?
I actually don't know. But
Tetris? I don't know.
Could well, if you counted every version of Tetris ever made, that might be true.
Selling video games.
Man looks up thing on internet.
Man looks up thing on internet. Here you go. Tetris. Yeah, that was a good guess. Tetris, then Wii Sports, then Minecraft. There you go. Then Grand Theft Auto 5.
Let's get in there. The gap between Minecraft and Grand Theft Auto must be pretty large, right? Like I don't.
Yeah, it goes Tetris 100 million, Wii Sports 82 million, Minecraft 70 million, Grand Theft Auto 52 million.
82 million
for Wii Sports. Yeah,
that means there must have been like 82 million Wiis out there. That's a lot.
And the next one after GTA 5 is Super Mario Brothers.
Well, the original.
Yeah, 1985.
Nice.
Oh, weird. No, the Tetris at the top is not the 1989 one. It's the 2006 one. What?
Wait, what?
Wow.
What is Tetris 2006? What was platform?
iOS, PSP. Android, BlackBerry.
Man, that must be okay. Mobile sales.
Yeah.
Holy shit! So what's the Minecraft figure they give there then?
They give 70 million.
Okay, so wow, that means only the most of the Minecraft sales have not been on the PC or Mac, like through the old traditional version. They've all been the ports and mobile editions.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense.
Huh. That might be why they make so many versions of it.
So there's a separate list for single platform, which is all the Nintendo stuff. It's Wii Sports and then Super Mario Brothers. Yeah, so there you go.
That's amazing. The crafting minds.
So that's the news on the Minecrafts. A little bit of news. Apparently, Star Wars Battlefront is going to have a team deathmatch mode, which might be quite fun, I guess. A bit less pressure than crazy mode.
Battlefield deathmatch is never good.
Yeah, I don't know. I could get into it, and I quite liked some of Battlefield 3's at least, sort of smaller modes.
The levels are never designed for it, and then
no, that is the problem.
Tried to make a level, you just end up with I distinctly remember where there's a level where it's like they tried to make a level out of a collection of city buildings, but then they've just put like a chain link fence around the edge of it to make the edge of the arena, and it's just really dumb.
Yeah. No, I agree. Yeah, the levels are somewhat haphazardly made in the Battlefield universe, but there's nothing wrong mechanically with how the game works. It's just the maps need
the classic
a bit more.
Problem of spawn control being ridiculous.
Oh, but that's the same with any of these. If they were going for the COD effect where everyone basically just spawns everywhere, then that would just be it's almost like classic TDM in that case. Just spawn somewhere, deal with it. Deal with it.
Well, that's all my news. What else you got?
Not anything really. China are allowing video game consoles to be sold after a 15-year ban,
which has conveniently allowed that other dumb bit of news,
which I don't have. Do tell.
Ouya was bought by Razer.
How was it?
Because Razer wants to make an Android-based games console for China.
What, try and just get in there quick, you mean?
Yeah, apparently. They're just like, holy shit, the market's open, go! Although what's really funny about that story is they bought Ouya, but they didn't buy the hardware. They're like, fuck that shit. We're making our own thing. We only want your software assets.
No, weird.
Yeah, I guess Razer are a hardware company, aren't they? So I guess that makes sense. Have they already made Android gamepad things? No, that's the Nvidia Shield, isn't it? Have they done something like that? Razer?
Don't know.
I think haven't Nvidia made a proper tablet now?
Probably.
Like this is like a Shield tablet now. I think, or like a proper device, which I heard was having battery overheating issues. It could explode in your hands.
Right, that's not good. Don't want explodey tablets.
It's pretty bad. I know nothing else of it. I might as well talk about this bit in news because, you know, I haven't got a lot to add to my Splatoon discussions. It's still awesome. But there's an enormous update. Well, the biggest update so far coming in the next week, where they're changing a reasonable amount of stuff. So some of the things that people have been complaining about since the start, like being able to put together a team of people and stay with them, you know, sort of a lobby system. They're adding some capabilities for that back in. Well, back in. They were never in there in the first place, but they're adding it in.
Cool.
And also the ability to host private games. So you can just run your own games with your own settings and be able to customize stuff. So those are the major changes, but they're also introducing new weapon types and new levels. One of the existing levels is, as the game world puts it, is now under construction and will be slightly redefined when it comes out. They go to the effort of making it like, oh, this area is under construction, so you're not going to see this on the playlists for a while in its current state. Like they're trying to make it an in-world reason for the changes being made by just taking it off the playlists.
Oh, I see. Okay.
In preparation for the update. It's kind of cool in a way. I mean, it's annoying in the sense that, oh, that means I can't play that level for a while. So there's actually one less level in the rotation now. But it's kind of neat that they went to the effort of trying to keep everything canon, I guess, in the Splatoon world.
I think that's important to them. Keep kind of weird lore going.
Yeah, it's interesting. So the new weapons they're adding is apparently a splatling cannon. So they're basically adding the heavy.
Okay, yeah, sure.
And a bucket, which they call the slosher, and it just looks like a bucket. I don't actually know how that's going to work. Whether you're like throwing artillery paint shots or something out of it by swinging it around, or if it's basically just another melee weapon. No one really. I don't think they've released anything about how that thing's going to work, but it's just funny that it's a bucket.
We'll have to see how that works, but that is kind of cool.
The slosher, they call it. Yeah, so Splatoon updates on the way. Oh, and lots more gear, which is the bit I'm interested in. Just tons more gear.
So where are we with the Wii U? What are the good Wii U games? Got quite a few at this point.
The Wii U's like, you know, it's not a bad system to own at this point. It's
Splatoon, Mario Kart,
Smash Brothers,
Zelda remake, I guess, if you're into that.
Yeah. I quite liked New Super Mario Brothers. I thought that was a good game. Bayonetta, obviously.
Oh yeah, Bayonetta 2.
Which is fabulous. And Lego City Undercover, if you're me.
Indeed. Have you got any other games for the system?
I'm meaning to play 3D Land. 3D World. I really want to tackle that at some point. But I haven't. And I'd actually quite like to play Tropical Freeze as well. I haven't ever really played a Donkey Kong game properly, other than DK64. But it sounds like it might be my kind of platformer, or at least the two recent ones. So the Donkey Kong Returns series, I guess.
I could do with a re-release of the Galaxy games. That would be pretty good. I wonder if they'll do that. They did it for Zelda. I don't know.
Hey,
I guess
maybe.
They were Wii games, though, weren't they?
They were Wii games
already, like, compatible, are they? Can you play Wii games?
It does play Wii games, but it doesn't upscale or anything like that, or doesn't run them at a higher resolution. So, people that have tried running Mario Galaxy, for instance, in Dolphin, the emulator for GameCube and Wii,
you can get it super nice.
So yeah, running that in an HD is pretty good.
Yeah, I'd quite like to do that if it wasn't like quite illegal. I think it is.
Well,
I don't know.
it's
I
that
think it's probably
murky
quite
area,
hard
and
to
that
do
if
as well.
if you own the game, technically the legal way to emulate is to own the game and to make a dump of your own discs or something like that. Which actually, at that point, getting hold of the PAL copy of the game, for instance, actually probably isn't a problem because it will be the same dump in theory.
Right.
So that's not so bad. The only bit of emulation that is probably considered illegal, and this is the true at all times, is the fact you need a BIOS image in order to do your
so
stuff.
You need to dump the BIOS of the console.
Yeah, so you would have to try and figure out how to dump the BIOS of your console, in order to technically be legal. Yeah. But of course, no one does that because it's a bloody hassle.
Right. Fair enough. And
you'll probably void your warranties and all that gubbins along the way. So that's been true. I think that's been true since the PlayStation 1 style emulation, where getting a BIOS dump was the bit that was hard.
Righto.
Emulation. Do it at your own risk. But it's pretty interesting stuff.
Zeggery. Got any news?
Yes. There was that Street Fighter 5 beta that got well fucked up because it was an actual beta.
Okay.
Well, it was a beta in the sense of this game is actually really
finished.
very much in development.
Well, the trouble was they did the classic thing where they sold access to the beta as like a pre-order bonus, kind of, in certain versions of the game.
Sure.
But it's like this time when they did that, it was an actual beta and not just like an early access demo, like they always are every other time.
Sure.
So when it broke, everyone was like, "What? We spent our money to get this thing that doesn't work," and it's like, that's what a beta is. Yeah. Surprise! They actually used the proper definition of the word this time.
I think it's good to be on Capcom's side on this one. In a way, they probably tested what they needed to test with that build.
I'm not sure they actually did, though. That's the trouble. It's like it broke so much that not really anyone could play it, which maybe only tells you that your servers are fucked. It doesn't really tell you specifically how they're fucked.
Well, I guess I better hope they have decent logging.
But yeah, so then they were basically like delaying and moving the beta around and extending the beta period and stuff. So maybe that'll actually happen at some point. Maybe it will work the second.
Maybe they'll do another one. Yeah, just do another one later on and be like, okay, like we're bringing it back now. We need to test some other stuff after you manage to break all that. We need to
actually test stuff.
Yeah. I mean, betas in games tend to be not necessarily as a true bug hunting exercise. Not really. They're more about server load.
Yeah,
things
most
like that.
of them are load balancing.
Yeah.
And obviously, the main problem with this one was something to do with the server, but it was just like really bad. It wasn't just like lag or like load balancing issues. It's like the whole thing just broke.
Yeah, unless you're in those sort of, I don't know, you're doing those proper like closed testing routines, which DJ Kipling is often a part of these days.
Yeah.
Then yeah, you're likely not going to be testing anything that bug wise. It's always server time. It's always server stuff. It's like I remember the one of the best betas ever was the Blur beta. They ran that for a week or two. I think it might have been an open beta, like anyone could just download the game and play it, which I think may have led to its poor sales because everyone got their fill.
Right.
And it was quite chunky. There was a good few tracks in there and a good few cars, and basically showed off this is what the game is going to be, very, very well. And I think people who tried it may have got their fill from it. The interesting thing I remember, the one interesting thing I remember about the Blur beta was that the menu music was a sort of very short loop of one of the songs that actually made it to the final game. But that bit of that loop that was in the beta never made it into the final game. It's like I probably rightly so because it was quite irritating.
Right.
It had a very sort of like weird and annoying like single note that would occasionally change pitch like the whole time, like just doing that all the time. And it's like I'm kind of glad you took that out. Beaters.
Yep, actual beaters. Maybe we can start bringing that back, like the actual
real
meaning of the
beaters.
word.
That'd be good.
You could argue that maybe the Halo 5 one counted. That was a bit problematic at first, but
Yeah, and that's
cleared
quite a
that
long
up
way from
pretty
release
quick.
too.
Yeah, maybe that one's okay.
So, how about for my final bit of news that I haven't really been paying that much attention to, but I've just read? How about that kickstarting ridiculousness of Red Ash from Concept? The whole Mega Man ridiculousness of let's kickstart 4 or 5 games simultaneously because I don't know.
Inafune is making a bit of a shit show of himself at the moment. I don't know. He's becoming somewhat untrustworthy, I think, as a result of all of this.
Well, it just got worse because this news story is actually the game Red Ash that was originally on Kickstarter. So as I heard about it, it's like it was originally on Kickstarter with a pretty low goal, and the low goal was to make like a sort of
Was it to make like a prologue?
Yeah, like a prologue.
Yeah.
To a game that theoretically might happen, but then it's one of those things that people have done on Kickstarter where it's like you set a low goal, but you say what that low goal is actually going to make, which is like the prologue, but then it's like if we continue to get funding, then we'll actually make the game.
Yeah.
So that was how that originally appeared, but apparently now some Chinese publisher has just come in and said, okay, we'll fund you to make it, and now they've changed the Kickstarter to be all the funding on the Kickstarter is content.
All right,
which is
so
sort of weird.
It is a bit weird. It's like I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing. Like presumably it's a good thing because they're actually like
there's going to be a whole game.
Yeah, they've adjusted it to fit the situation that has occurred. Like these Chinese, or was it Chinese? Did you say this?
Yeah,
Chinese. The Chinese funding has come in, and they're all like, well now okay, we're going to be making this game regardless because we've got some money, but we've already got this Kickstarter running. We're going to have to change it. That I think I'm okay with. That sounds like a very businessy thing that could happen. And it did happen. So that's fine, right? And surely the backers are now, anyone that's backed it is just going to get more as a result of this? Is that really a bad thing?
Well, I guess so, unless, I don't know, it depends if there was some weird Kickstarter tiers or something, but probably not. If they were only funding for like a prologue.
No, but I mean, like,
you have to assume that you'd get everything if it went to the long.
Yeah, exactly. Like, presumably the links say, back this much and you'll get a key to the game or something, a Steam key or something when it comes out, or access to the betas or something, or that's how they normally do that stuff. So you would hope that it's like now that it's going to be funded and be a bigger, the game that it should be.
Well, you hope so.
Yeah. Have they still done that? Like, so I heard that I don't know if this it was in the adjusted or the original version, but even with the bit of the prologue after that, they had like a world sketched out saying, okay, we're going to be able to build these bits of the world with this much funding and these bits of the world with this much funding. And it's like, and even I think the furthest stretch goal seemed to have bits missing because people uncovered some of the artwork that was used to come up with this, and it's like, as you can see in the complete artwork, you can see that the whole world is supposed to look a little bit like a robot thing. And it's like, but in the versions they're telling us about, there's all this just stuff missing. It's like, have they already made a DLC cut?
Who knows? Maybe they'll just kickstart another bit.
That's probably true.
Because the thing is, it says...
But he's got a lot on as well, isn't it? It's not just this. It's like he's supposedly involved with that newly announced Recore project.
Yeah.
Which, in fairness, he's probably, his team aren't developing that. Armature will be handling probably the bulk of the work on that. But, everyone's just like, can we get Mighty Number 9 out now, please?
Well,
which he said was done, but it's been delayed, apparently. So, I don't know. What's going on, Mr. Inafune? Give us some games. You need to actually put something out now. Otherwise, we're all going to get a bit fed up with you.
Yes.
Kickstarter. It's a thing. It has many challenges. And is, if nothing else, is a source of news discussion. So Kickstarter is technically funding us. I don't know.
News.
News.
Are we done with news?
I think we might be.
I think we might be done with news.
We did pretty good for a couple of weeks where I haven't been paying attention.
It's time for what you've been playing. Rob, what have you been playing?
I've been playing South Park and finishing that off.
Oh, sweet.
The Stick of Truth. Boy, does that game go places.
It does?
I mean, in its setting, it's like it doesn't mechanically go places, and that is one of its, I suppose,
right,
downfalls, in that the combat becomes somewhat trivial once you unlock Kyle as a buddy character.
Right, you're basically just trying to get through to more jokes and story.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, the actual game element of it becomes a bit of a. I mean, I was playing it through in normal mode. Maybe in hard mode, it becomes more of a. Maybe there's a bit more to it, or perhaps you have to pay more attention. But there's, me being thorough or thorough-ish on my playthrough, I was quite overpowered for some of the stuff.
Right. Yeah.
And so yeah, mechanically it doesn't really go anywhere. But yeah, I thought it was messed up before, but then there were certain spots of that game where you're just like, oh my god, you really did that. That's the balls you must have. Which is both hilarious and disturbing, and yeah, just baffling how they get away with this stuff.
Well, it's not even on TV at this point.
No.
It's something you've bought and paid for or whatever, only on your PC. Or games console, I guess.
Yeah. You know, they're just freely using references from here, that, and everywhere. So I know they've probably almost all of them have been in the show before. It's like, actually, in a weird way, not many of the jokes are probably brand new. You know, somewhat recycled from the show, but in a sort of very fan-pleasing way, shall we say. It's kind of a fan game. But, boy, some of that, just... It's one of the... I think it might have been the only game I've been playing where Gnome has left the room, not because the game was noisy or particularly irritating to what she was trying to achieve in the house, but she just couldn't look at it. It was just like, I can't be in the same room as this.
Right.
It's too much.
Too extreme.
It's pretty grim.
Imagery.
Yes. It's pretty grim. Although that is South Park's talent in general. Is like,
yes,
taking
really
the
far.
super grim and somehow making it funny. Somehow. And I guess it was a little disappointing as well that the main threat of the game was kind of all there was, in that.
Oh, right. There wasn't something unmasked as the greater threat or something.
It's kind of. There's a couple of late minute twists that are pretty hilarious and come straight out of left field. You know, like, oh wow, you did that. That's really cool. Like again, sort of like callbacks to the show, and if you knew what was going on with certain characters and things in the past, then
right.
Or then suddenly something turns up involving them, and you're like, oh wow, that's cool.
That's cool. Okay, look forward to that.
And they make that stuff pretty funny. But ultimately, the threat that you see for like the basically 2/3 of the whole game is pretty much just the threat. And once you deal with that, it's like, yep, game's done now.
Right.
Roll credits.
I guess it's their first game. Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
So.
Which kind of makes me hope that the next one, perhaps they're going to have to be more original in it. They're going to actually... I mean, I know they're pulling on some of the stuff that they didn't in this game, like the Coon, and more of their superhero themed games as opposed to this humans versus elves setting.
Yeah, because this one sort of came from the what was it? The Tale of the Two Towers, the Return of the Lord. What's the name of the episode?
Oh, I can't remember exactly, but it's the one where they're playing Lord of the Rings, isn't it? And they're trying to return the
Return of the Fellowship of the Ring to the Two Towers, right?
Yeah,
I think that's the name of it.
Trying to return the video to the video store. And it turns out it's Backdoor Sluts 9.
Yeah, that's right. Does that turn up in the game?
There's a tiny reference to it. It's one of the junk items you can find.
Sweet.
It's just a copy of Backdoor Sluts 9. And it seems like everyone still has an Akama game sphere just hanging about in a chest of drawers somewhere.
Oh, right.
You find quite a lot of those.
Because they abandoned that, because for a long time, South Park has just straight up said the real games console names.
Yeah. Akama game sphere. Oh, there wasn't any Towley action, actually.
No Towie. I
don't think there was any Towley. He appears as like one of the loading symbols, and the tooltip text that comes up during that load says, "Don't forget to bring a towel." but I don't think he actually appears in the game, unless he's a super secret or something. But yeah, pretty good. As I said before, if you're a fan of the series, it's kind of a no-brainer. You'll enjoy it. I know people that have been put off by the fact that it is an RPG, and RPGs of that turn-based style combat can be somewhat repetitive and can be somewhat boring for some people. So I do know people that, as much as they kind of like the idea of that game, they just don't want to play it because of how it plays.
And this one doesn't have the most variety of that kind of
No,
anyway.
Definitely not. It's a means to an end, but yeah, not particularly inventive, I guess. But if you're okay with that, then just play it, man. It's cool. Don't play it if you're easily offended by anything. You have to be. You can't. The only way you could actually be into South Park, right, is if you're not offended by anything in the world ever.
Do you think?
Yeah, pretty much. Unless it's like a personal attack, sure. But
right.
There's no ground they haven't covered in some capacity.
Yeah, well, they always do this like thing where they say the moral is like the halfway between both sides. Usually, they usually do that at the end of the episode. They wrap up by saying, "Oh, both sides are crap, so burn them out." Which is kind of annoying.
We should have done nothing all along.
They're like libertarians, basically, I think.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm not sure I agree with their politics all the time, but still.
Yeah, it's funny.
It's funny.
So there's that. I've continued playing Massive Chalice.
Massive Chalice.
Did we talk about that? I must have talked about that last time, yeah.
Double Fine and...
I don't actually know who else is on it, if it was just Double Fine internal or if someone else was involved and they published, who knows. I'm continuing to play that. I'm very close to the end of the 300 years of Chalice charging. So I'm getting into the end game thing. I had a bit of a moment that I couldn't do a great deal about, where, you know how in XCOM you get to the state where you can lose nations from the council. This game kind of has the equivalent of that, where if the corruption level in a certain region gets too big, then that region basically just gets totally destroyed.
Right.
And it got to the point where the combinations of where I could defend, I was left with an impossible decision where there were 3 places being attacked at once, and I could only pick one of them. And the result of that outcome would be that 2 of those regions would just be destroyed. It's like whichever one I picked, there was no way out of the situation. It's like, oh no. So I've actually had 2 of my regions totally destroyed at this point.
Oh,
and now it's kind of like I need to just hold out for the last few years and see what the end game is. Because I've got tons of people. Like, I've been breeding well. I managed to breed back into society.
Good breeding.
I've managed to breed back into society some of the classes that I lost early on. And basically just got a handle on everything. It's not too bad.
Okay.
Like I got myself in a comfortable position, until this moment, and it's like, oh no, I lost 2 breeding houses. What's going to happen? Ooh. They're called keeps. They're not called breeding houses.
Okay. But that's how you're referring them, because that's what they do. That's their function.
Yeah. It is very much still, like, I can only really describe it as XCOM light. Like, from about the halfway point, you kind of start to wish there was slightly more to it.
Right, yeah.
Like, there were slightly more mechanics, there was slightly cleverer things that you needed to worry about with regards to your population and stuff. You do start just going through the motions. As I say, once you get into a comfortable position, there's not a lot of game there, I guess, anymore. Other than making sure you're not a complete idiot during the tactical battles. There's only like 4 or 5 different enemy types, I want to say, like, really, and they basically just become an advanced version of those as you get later on. So it's not a great deal of variety to where the combat goes past the halfway point. You're not really being introduced to new enemy types anymore, which is one of the things XCOM did really well.
Yeah, they were, because it was terrifying when there were new enemy types in XCOM.
Yeah, you're like, what's that? Oh no, how do I deal with this? Like, some of the more challenging battles have been the ones where they're directly attacking one of your keeps or something, because you basically have your 2 regents stood on their own on one side of the map, and obviously there'll be chances are they won't have been in your vanguard at any time, so they'll be quite low level. And then your heroes land basically on the opposite side of the map the whole time, so you have to try and get your heroes to them in a vain attempt of trying to save them before they get immediately murdered by the crowds getting to them. It's those are quite challenging to just. Most of the time, I lose a regent. I will lose one, and I'll keep the other one.
Because you're just sort of pegging it across the map, trying to get there.
Yeah, but of course on the way you're passing hordes and hordes of people and getting stuck in fights and stuff. So it's quite those are quite difficult, but somewhat interesting because they break up the flow a little. It's cool. I really like the music in that game. It has to be said. I think the music is pretty excellent.
Oh, maybe a contender for.
Yeah, there's some really nice sort of just floaty strings and some nice piano stuff in there. It's quite nice. It's quite nice. It's just enough of a hook to the tunes that they get in your head. That little bit, you don't mind sort of thinking of them when you're not playing the game. That kind of stuff. It's cool. It's cool. I really like what they did with the soundtrack. Has its place.
And its place is in this game.
Yeah. So Massive Chalice, available on... I think that's available on Xbone, and there's a PC version, so... I would have a look. I would give it a look if you just can't wait for XCOM 2. I don't know what it's even costs, so I can't even advise you on that front.
Check it out.
Check it out. Check it out. And because I finished South Park, this opened up some more time to play something else. So as I promised, I finally got around to playing Ori and the Blind Forest.
Oh, cool. Okay. How are you finding it? How's it going?
It is an incredibly pretty game.
Yeah.
I mean, like, if you've seen any of the footage of, you know, how it's been at E3 and stuff like that, and in the past, and presumably reviews from earlier in the year and stuff, it really does look great just in action. Like, just seeing it in 60 frames per second, and all the animation is brilliant, and all the like little wispy effects that everything has, like, it just looks really nice. The way that just the foliage moves and stuff, it's a very well thought through visual design. It's a beautiful game. I really like that. I mean, the prologue is basically what we saw in its E3 reveal, that sort of that tale of your companion effectively dying.
Right, yeah.
It's like, you know, spoiler alert, I guess, but it happens right at the start of the game. So, and it's like the way that's done when you see the full thing, it's really very well set. They do some clever stuff with just, like, it feels like a proper animation, you know, not just a bit of game that you have to sit through. They've done a really fantastic job at putting that whole scene together. It's got a touch of the Panzer Dragoon Orta to it, in the way that the the ancient tree, I suppose, talks to you. You know, like in between the levels in Panzer Dragoon, you used to get that weird voiceover and stuff. It's a bit like that.
That had a really weird, kind of cool, creepy vibe. That Panzer Dragoon. There's something strange about the atmosphere of that game.
That game is very unique in feel. Yeah, they do that thing though, where the text sort of appears in the world, and you hear that this made up language try and read it to you and stuff like that. But it's happening during the game.
Okay,
so
that's cool.
You'll reach certain points, and it'll be like the tree. It's being told as if the tree was retelling this as a tale later on. So it's every now and then you'll see this word, who's water, Audi, just appear on screen, and it's kind of cool. So it basically plays pretty good as well. I had some trouble getting the PC version to run smoothly. It didn't like my multi-monitor setup. So I'm trying to get it to, like, I've been playing it on my TV, like through an HDMI cable, feeding into the amplifier and stuff. And but while I had my computer monitors turned on at the same time, I had quite a lot of little micro stutters happening. So it doesn't seem particularly happy with multi-mon.
That's annoying.
Even if there's just two monitors running, like on my normal computer, not running to the telly, there's still a little bit of hitching going on. But so as long as you turn them all off and you're playing it on a single monitor, then I get pretty good performance out of it. Which is a little bit of a shame because it's just that little extra level of awkwardness that you don't really
to get it started up.
Yeah.
It's like that bloody, certain games doing that thing that you saw on my thing with the bloody Windows Aero experience or whatever.
Oh god, those things. Yeah, that is properly annoying.
Hopefully Windows 10 won't have that.
Yeah. I guess it's, but yeah, I would imagine there's very little chance of that happening in 10 because Aero is pretty much gone, isn't it? And
yeah.
So that's kind of frustrating. And I also think that some of the visual design plays against the gameplay to some degree. So the gameplay is kind of like very... you move quite fast. You're very small on the screen, and so that's led people in the past to make some kind of Meat Boy style comparison. Like, so the way you platform in that game is relatively similar. Once you've unlocked certain abilities, and once you've got to a certain point in the game, like it takes a while for you to unlock a double jump, and it takes you a while to unlock your ability to climb up walls by jumping off of it in a sort of wall jumpy way that, like you can in Meat Boy, that kind of stuff. And so the gameplay ends up being like, oh, here's a new ability you have. Here's a single super simple example on how to use that. And then the very next room is a very complicated thing using the new ability that you've just got. The game is hard.
Okay.
Like it's hard in a good way, in that it's not ever frustrating enough for you to go, fuck this shit, and like throw the controller down. It's hard in the way that it's...
but you have to take it seriously.
Yeah, which is made somewhat complicated by its save system. So you have an energy meter, and you can expend a blob of the energy meter to create a save point.
Oh, okay.
Now, unless you do this on a regular basis, there's a high likelihood that when you die, you will just go back to your previous save point. The game basically doesn't auto-save very often at all. So knowing where your limits are, I guess, in terms of how often you need to do that is also a question of managing your energy meter as well as your patience, I suppose. Which is sort of interesting, but very annoying when you realise you haven't saved for like quite a while.
I hate games that muck with save systems. I don't know. Like, I would have played a lot more through Alien, I think, if it had a more normal save system, for example.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, the advantage to it is that if you're having a particularly hard time with a segment, and you've got enough energy, just create a save point in the middle of it. Get past the first hard bit, create a save point, and then try and tackle just the second hard bit.
Yep.
In a sequence. So when you've got enough energy, that plays out pretty well, and there's nothing really wrong with it in that situation. But it's, as I say, it's just when you forget about it that it can screw you over. Like if you go into a boss fight or something like that, or a canned sequence or something, it will always auto save at the start of the sequence, and chances are it won't let you create a save point during the sequence because it's like, oh, you can't create it while you're in peril or something.
Annoying.
Not that you probably ever would have time to do it during those sequences, but it's an interesting system. I'm not sure it's quite refined enough. I'm not sure it works entirely positively, but it's interesting that it's there. So I guess the only other, controlling issue I might have with some of this stuff is that there are times where the visual design actively works against how the game actually functions. So combat is, there are enemies in the game and you can fight them. But the basic idea is that you have to mostly focus on just getting out of the way of the attacks while smashing X, and X will basically auto lock on to the things and start sending lightning bolts their way.
Okay.
But the problem with that is that the game, it looks so good and everything has this sort of wispiness to it. So as things move, there's a nice sort of like ghost trail behind things that actually it becomes kind of difficult to see what's going on when you're throwing this lightning about.
So the art style is sort of clashing with the actual gameplay.
A little bit, yeah, which is a bit of a shame. You get used to it. It's a little bit. There's a little bit of the Geometry Wars effect where you learn to live with the bloom to a certain degree.
Right,
and but it can be frustrating at first when you can't see this tiny little projectile like underneath your attack.
Comes and hits you.
Yeah, I mean, everything's very zoomed out, everything's very small anyway, so it's like when it's covered in this bloom, it can be a little difficult, probably more so than it needs to be. But it does look good. Man, does it look good. So I'm really liking it thus far. It's definitely scratching that sort of Metroid-y itch. It has one massive overworld, basically, and then there's 3 dungeons that you have to do throughout the course of the game. I've done the first one so far. And there's plenty of places where you realise it's like, oh, right, I can see something up there, but I don't know how I'm supposed to get to this point yet, until probably there's some ability I need for later on in order to do that, and so it's scratching that itch.
Right, yeah.
And it's also nice that the open world has zero. It is just a single level. There's like no loading between going to new areas and stuff like that. It's.
Oh, I always like that. Yeah.
It's great at that. There's no transition between. There's no hard stop at any point. Everything is just in the world, and that's really great. I mean, it even does the Meat Boy thing of when you die, you instantly respawn at your last save point, like instantly. Wherever that may be, however far away in the world it was since you last saved, it's instant, and it's really that good. Stuff is really well done. So I'm really liking it. It's making me smile. Although Gnome has had one criticism of it as well, and that the music makes it sound like someone's about to die, which actually, given the circumstances of how that game starts, is not far from the mark.
Right, yeah.
But perhaps it needs a little bit more jolliness to it. I don't know.
Right, it's a bit unrelentingly,
yeah,
morbid.
Yeah, but yeah, it's so far really impressed. Pretty cool thing.
Cool. Ori and the Blind Forest.
Yeah, that's pretty much all I've been doing.
That's quite a bit. Finished one game.
I played a bit more Splatoon, obviously.
Splatoon, yeah.
So, they released another new level for it. The one that was in the trailers, where it looked like it was a wooden treehouse type thing. That level finally actually came out, and it's a pretty cool ranked level for ranked play. The Splat Zone game type. I've still not been able to get into a game. Like whenever I've logged onto it, that tower control game type has not been on. So I'm still yet to try that. Not for a lack of trying. It's just never been on.
Like they need to put out a timetable or something.
Yeah, maybe. They probably alternate right now, but it's just like when I haven't been on for a while during a stage switch. So,
well, if they alternate like every 2 hours, then you'd never get on if you were doing it at the same time every day because it would always be in phase.
Yeah. I guess. Yeah. Maybe that's true. I'll have to change up my routine. So that is me.
So now it is Zeg's time.
I got that done real quick, just looking at the timer. It's like, we're flying.
What have you been playing, dude?
There's not too much to talk about, really, is there? I played some more Dirt Rally still. I got through another whole Masters Championship in the 2010 cars. It was really weird. It was really dumb because, like, my first attempt of like getting to Masters and the 2010 cars, I got through that, and it's a bit weird when you get to the end because it's just like you come to the end of the championship, and like you know how you get the pop up which tells you when you've been promoted,
Right,
well,
yeah.
Obviously, when you're in Masters, the pop-up is
Can't.
just like,
Right.
congratulations, you've completed the championship, but you didn't win. You needed 7 more points to win. It's like, oh, okay then. It doesn't even show you like the actual score table or anything. It's just like this tiny line of text that's like, you missed out by 7 points. Do better.
Try harder.
So all you can do is just keep trying it, right? I guess.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing to unlock or anything.
No. So it was like the first time I did it, I missed by 7 points, and the second time I did it, I missed, like, I came second by 23 points.
No, bloody hell.
But it's like it wasn't because I did any worse. It was just like the randomness of the AI turned out just made one of them really good. It was like it was really weird because he like came 11th in the first rally and then first in all of the other 3.
Oh wow.
Right.
Okay.
So it kind of sucked.
You can do about
I was like, I thought I had a hope because I was doing consistent with like thirds and fourths or whatever, but it wasn't quite enough to counteract consecutive firsts. I thought I was going to be okay with his 11th, but
That's the problem with any like sort of like racing game with like championships and stuff. Like it's always just, it always feels slightly better when it's not the one other competitor like win, or you know this guy's always going to come first, this guy's always going to come second.
yeah, but
it always feels better
comes first. It's like it's not like that in Dirt Rally.
No, it isn't. Don't get me wrong.
Around.
Don't get me wrong. Most of the time, it isn't, and it's the F-Zero is another great example of that. There are certain times where certain players are better at other tracks than others, and it's and that feels quite good because you can sort of game the championship in a way, and that you sort of know, oh, I only need to beat this guy, and I'll be fine. I don't need to win this race. I just need to make sure I'm ahead of that dude.
Yeah.
But when, like in your case, I suppose if this guy was winning all of them, then it's like, nope, can't play it that way.
It was like after the first, when he came first in the second rally, which was Greece. It was like, oh, he's Greek, so that makes sense. But then he continued to come first. And it was like, oh.
In fairness, that has happened to me most of the time over. There's always a Finn that seems to win.
Well, wait until you get the finish tracks, then he'll really win.
He'll really win. He'll win harder.
Yes. And I also read some more information about about Rallycross coming up in the next pack.
Oh yeah.
Apparently, there's only going to be 2 tracks.
What, in total?
2 tracks in this first pack, and then 1 more added later on.
That's not a lot.
No, it's not. But that's kind of poopy.
I'd rather have rally stages than rally cross.
Yeah, I mean, this is just confirming my fears in a way about their content strategy just not being enough.
Well, it's like we said before, probably, that you kind of hope that to a certain extent, once you've generated assets for one rally stage, it becomes much easier to make new ones. Because then you're just sort of just rearranging all the assets in a different way,
Sure,
to some extent.
It's not like you probably need to come up with all new textures for what you want to achieve, because what you want to achieve is probably already there. You just want a different ribbon.
But the trouble with that is that they seem to want to make their rally stages based on real stages, and that requires them actually going out and mapping the stages to some extent. Like, they're not exact replicas of the exact stages, but they're like similar in layout.
Yeah, presumably they need to look at the sorts of corners that are actually used, that kind of thing. And just feel like, let's okay, how does this work? How does the flow of these stages feel? And try and replicate that.
But then, everyone is arguing about whether it would be weird to have, like, here's the real stages and here's something that we just made up that we thought was cool. And it's like, does that automatically make those worse in some way? Would you even notice?
Yeah, I'm not sure we would notice.
Well, no,
maybe rally aficionados might say that's not what Sweden looks like, or something.
Also, when I was reading about the upcoming content, it's not very well specified because this is like the last couple of packs that they've got lined up in their like calendar or whatever. But it seems to suggest that they're going to do Finland and Sweden as two separate things. Because Finland is there labelled, but then like the one after that is like specifically, it doesn't say a country, it just says like snow, and I'm like, well, that's Sweden then, isn't it? That's got to be the last country. So maybe we will get both the fancy, the gravel and the snow stages.
Yeah. Maybe soft banks.
Yeah, they did mention that as well, where they said that they might be redoing the physics of the embankments. I think we mentioned that last time. They mentioned it again.
You were showing me last week, like while we were not recording podcast, how you've had some physics glitches.
Well, it's like I'd never really had one as bad as you kept saying your ones were. But
Yeah,
then I had one as bad as what you were saying.
In fairness, the one you showed me, because you conveniently recorded it, that was much, much worse than I think anything I've experienced.
What happened?
He managed to basically like hit a rock and it somehow flipped not in the way you expect. It sort of backflipped or something weird.
Well, it was like I was coming around a hairpin and I was going uphill, and like I went too far on the inside, and it was on Monaco, so there was a bit of snow and then like a rock there. And then as I sort of hit the rock with my front right-hand side, I flipped forwards onto the roof. And I was like, how the hell did that physics work? It's like I was even going uphill, so that makes it even less likely to flip forwards.
It just feels like didn't feel like there'd be nearly enough momentum to cause anything remotely like what happened.
Yeah, because I wasn't going fast either, so it was just like this weird...
You'd have sort of just, perhaps your back wheels would have come off the ground a bit, but there's no way that would have flipped. No way. Which makes me think that for some reason the triggers to make your car, I've always felt that for some reason the point at which a car decides to go flying uncontrollably seems weirdly too low. Like it just seems very flip happy.
Well, sort of, but not in the ways that you want it to. It's like it's never seemed like it correctly manages like weight shifting body roll type rolling, because like when you start rolling it always feels really weird. It's like you don't feel like there's any weight really to the car, you're just like casually rolling over. And like especially in rally cars, because they're all meant to have like super low center of gravity, so you should really be able to see it in like the roll, where it should be like faster towards when like wheels down or whatever. It should be unstable when it's on its roof and that kind of thing, you'd expect.
Yeah, you should rock a little bit, right?
Or quite a lot. Or like almost self-right to some extent. Or like be more likely to land wheels down, I guess.
Yeah.
But you don't really feel that at the moment. It just feels like there's no real weight to anything once you actually get off your wheels.
I wonder if they're actually like... Maybe they are still using their old physics models, and that where the Codemasters thing that everyone always complains about, I guess, with some of how their things handle. It's a point in the middle of the car is how everything is modelled. It's not like proper wheel by wheel physics that we've come to see in games like Forza or Project Cars and stuff like that. It's
it doesn't feel that way to me anymore, but I don't know.
No, it definitely feels much, much better than what it has done in the past, but it's at the same time it's like maybe they've just managed to refine that model, like because maybe the center of gravity isn't modeled correctly, and it's just like when things roll, it is just like assuming the center of gravity is in the middle or something.
Yeah, maybe it's kind of hard to tell exactly what it's doing. Doesn't really matter. As long as you don't crash, but it does matter. It feels fine.
Sure, when you're on the road, it's fine.
Which is 99% of the game, or more.
Ideally, yes. So yeah, I did some more of that. And then I decided that maybe I should stop playing in the 2010 cars now that it's fully upgraded and everything, and just go back to the start. Buy some of the cars that I skipped and start leveling them up as well. I haven't done that yet. I bought one of the other rear-wheel drive 70s cars, and that seemed well easier to drive than the Stratos. So that's
Really?
kind of hopeful.
Bloody Stratos, god damn it.
Well, I've been driving the Opel, like for that.
Right.
One of the new cars they added.
Yeah.
And it's that seems perfectly reasonable.
God damn it.
The Stratos seems crazy. I haven't actually tried the Stratos since I started using the steering wheel.
I got used to
we'll
it.
have to see.
Yeah.
Whether it, because I was that, when I was driving the Stratos, I was still using the keyboard, so that was crazy. But yeah, I don't know. I bought this other rear-wheel drive 1970s car that I bought. Seemed really easy to drive, and I was like, "Oh man, I might actually be able to win the Masters Championship with this thing." Depends what the comparative CPU, how well the AI handles the 1970s cars, I guess.
Yeah.
Not that it's necessary. I don't know whether it's hard to tell what they've done for the AI. It's is it some kind of hidden simulation, or is it just here's some random number generator that's this guy did shit, this guy did good?
I would wager that it's more the latter, but based on some statistical analysis of of people's actual times trying to play that level.
I mean, the thing that is sort of noticeable is that as you level up through the different tiers, it doesn't necessarily make the computer players that much faster. It just makes them all more consistent. So the gaps get smaller. Which
so
makes
they're not pulling stupidly harder times as you level up, you mean?
No, not really.
That's kind of good, actually. I think that makes a bit more sense. In the way that they're trying to represent that game, anyway. I think that's a good thing.
But in some ways, that sort of also almost makes it easier to win, because it's I've had a couple of times where it's been as long as you don't fuck up, there's a relatively high probability that eventually one of the computer players will, and then you'll just move up positions because their time gets shitted.
I have relied on that in the past, yes.
Because of the gaps being a lot closer in the higher tier, it's quite easy to. I had a couple of times where I was consistently sitting in 5th place in stage times, but then I ended up coming 2nd because the other 3 people above me eventually had one stage where they got destroyed. So that's sort of helpful.
Yes.
I guess that sort of makes sense from a rally context. If you don't screw up, then you'll probably be okay. Versus the people who do screw up.
Very true. Life lessons: don't screw up. You'll probably be okay if you don't screw up.
Yes. So that was that. And then I also played quite a lot of. Well, I guess I still played some Terraria. I haven't actually got to the end of it. Got closer than I've ever gotten to getting to the end of it.
You still haven't been able to take out that last boss?
No, last boss is... Well, we haven't really attempted again. On the plus side, one of the patches since last time we played, they made it so that you could use a summoning item to summon the last boss. Because all the other bosses just have a thing where you just use the item and it spawns them. So you can grind them or fight them multiple times or whatever. If you fail, you can just get them back easier. But the last boss didn't have that. So you had to go through this whole multi-step process to cause it to spawn every time you failed. But now apparently not. Now you can just make an item. So you should be good.
Alright.
It's it kind of sucked more for the last boss because the process you have to go through to spawn the last boss sort of fucks with your world. It spawns these.
Well, just in general, your life outlook is irrecoverable.
Yeah, well, it spawns these 4 floating pillars over your terrain, quarter of the way along the map on each side, and each of those pillars creates an area of effect around it, where those specific types of enemies will spawn, and sometimes it has actual physical effects on the world. One of them affects gravity, so it can just make you float in midair. And that just makes it really inconvenient if you want to, for example, go somewhere in your world. It's just like, I have to get through this death zone to get to the other side of the map. So that kind of sucks. So now you don't have to do that any longer. You can just spawn him. So maybe one day we'll get back to that. Didn't really play that much. I played more by myself, actually. Just trying my alternate character, because I decided to actually see what the magic characters were actually like, because I've never really used magic. But I didn't get very far. So yeah, that was that. And then we also played together quite a lot of Factorio, because that had a recent update.
Oh, right. The not Infinifactory ever thing.
Oh, yeah, I wouldn't exactly... Yeah, I guess it's sort
What's
of
the
like
deal with it?
Factory.
Factorio?
It's the one that's basically like... I think I said before it was like Transport Tycoon, except instead of railways, you had conveyor belts.
Right, okay.
Yeah. That's been updated. It's been quite a while since they updated. It's sort of like Dwarf Fortress-esque in its updates, where they regularly update their blog every Friday, and it's like, it's time for an update, please. About now? And then eventually it happens, and you're like, oh, good.
That game's still early access, isn't it?
Yes, and they're trying to get it onto Steam now, which will be weird. I don't know what sort of early access they're going to do. I think they're going through Greenlight, but I don't know whether it's already green lit and they're like uploading a proper version, but it's still not done. So whether it will transition into early access or whether it will like stay in greenlit mode or whatever, I don't know. We'll see what happens.
It's a good question. But yeah, presumably it takes a reasonable amount of effort to put your game, put all the Steam hooks into your game that it needs.
Yeah, although I think they already said they were talking about achievements, which is kind of weird. There's maybe a bit early for achievements.
Yes, I always think that achievements and stuff like that should be the last thing you do, unless you've kind of got where your game is going very, very nailed down.
Yeah, I mean,
it feels a little bit weird that they're in Dirt Rally, if I'm honest, but it seems like if they're going to stick to this structure that they have for that game, that's probably okay.
Probably, although arguably you could say that it makes it easier earlier in the early access for the stuff like winning championships. When there's less stages you have to do, you can keep trying.
I guess. Yeah.
Now there's 4 rallies you have to do all 12 stages of to do the Masters Championship. That takes a long time. So yeah, Factorio, I don't know. I mean, it doesn't really have it's got more of an ending now than it had before, but it's still not. Okay. It's still not the actual ending that they're midway through making, because that's not made it into this patch. Because before the previous version, it used to be you just had to build this building and then just defend it for 10 minutes or whatever, and the building didn't even have a graphic. It was just like a blank square with some text in. Super placeholder. But that's gone now. Now it has a fancy rocket silo that you have to build a rocket in and then launch it into space, and then the game just ends. But in theory, what's actually going to happen is when you launch the rocket into space, and then you build a space factory. So you have a separate map which has really limited space. So you're building a factory on top of a floating space platform. So hopefully that will, at least an early version of that, will make it in before too long.
Am I right in saying that you thought there just wasn't enough of a game in the middle anyway, as it stands? There just needs to be slightly more systems.
I don't. It could do with some. I think the problem. It's building the factories is the bit that's good, because that's all you're building your optimized systems and working out the best ways to route your conveyors and transfer materials between different factories and stuff. That's the good part. The parts that are more problematic is resource extraction is nothing. It could do with some more. I don't know if you necessarily want more resources even, or whether you just want different ways to handle the resources or something, because it's you're just plonking mines down on top of the ore patches, and then you have ore, and then you just have to deal with the ore at that point, put it in a train or whatever. So I'm not sure whether you want more different kinds of ore, because that's not really make it more interesting, I guess. Make it marginally more complicated, because you're having to handle different types of ore coming through your systems. But that's not really more interesting. And the other trouble I've said about it before is like the enemies aren't really. They introduced a new type of enemy between the last time I played it and now, but I don't think it was in this last patch, where it's like a ranged enemy. So, because before you just build walls and you put your guns behind the walls, and then all the melee enemies had to attack the walls before they could attack your turrets.
Sure.
So now you've got the ranged enemies which can shoot the turrets over the walls, but it's like there's still no AI to them really. They just go to a point on your walls where they want to get in and shoot at whatever turret's nearest, and then provided you've got enough turrets on that bit of wall, then they get killed.
Yeah.
It's like there's still not really anything like particularly dangerous about the enemy AI.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what they could do though that wouldn't be really annoying from like the building your factories perspective.
I mean, surely the only real route is that they find spots in your defences where there's just less turrets on them, and they specifically target those, or come up with some other strategy for confusing you. Or...
I mean, you could do that, but then you're just at that point you're just building turrets all the way around your walls, which isn't necessarily that hard to do.
Right.
And that doesn't improve anything. I feel like you need. I think maybe the main problem is that there's just no like cheaper defenses, I guess. If you could maybe build like wooden walls instead of stone walls, or like some kind of, you can build landmines, and there's quite a cool idea where you can like use the construction robots to basically automatically rebuild minefields. So like when the mine explodes, the construction robot flies a new mine out there. And it's like, that's sort of cool, but it's just way too expensive in resources to actually be worth doing. You might as well just build more turrets.
Sounds like there's some balancing needed. Maybe could the as you say, like at the start of the game, perhaps you can only really build these cheap things because you haven't got enough resources to do so, and maybe the enemies at the start of the game are quite easy, and it becomes a race between you being able to get the better stuff compared to the rate at which the AI gets better.
Theoretically, it already is like that, because the more pollution you put out, the faster the enemies evolve and turn into the higher level versions of them, but they're still just the same enemies, basically. They're just tougher to kill, so you have to have more turrets as you produce more pollution.
Yeah, I guess what you want it to do is to throw in brand new enemy types that are different to what you've seen before, so your ability to react to them is maybe compromised, because it's like, oh crap, that one's come in at this time.
Yeah. I mean,
I need to adjust my plan.
I don't know what you can do, because rock, paper, scissors is always the problem. And, the other trouble is you want most of the defense to be automated most of the time. Because you're not actually very powerful, like your actual character, and you die real easy if you actually let enemies hit you. But automated defenses aren't that interesting to set up at the moment. Particularly not once you've got laser turrets that just run on electricity, because then you're not even having to supply them with ammo.
Sure.
So we'll see. And obviously the other trouble is, it was a thing that I always thought was just because they haven't really made the end game yet, but there's a certain point where there's not really any more resource sinks, and you're just making stuff for the hell of it.
Yeah. And
also the balance between just waiting and building more stuff, because you can, if you just have if you're making the final rocket parts or whatever with just one factory, it will take quite a long time, but it's much easier to feed one factory with resources than to build a whole bunch of factories and then set up a whole automated conveyor system to feed them all or whatever. It's easier just to basically make a crate and fill the crate up yourself by just picking up the stuff from various locations and shoving it in there. But then you're just waiting longer, and it's sort of I don't know. Is there a way you could make time more of it pressure? I don't know if you'd actually like that.
Sounds like this game needs a few more ideas, or a few more quite a lot more refinement to the concept before it's done.
Yeah,
it feels problematic from what you're describing. It sounds problematic at the moment in terms of making an engaging, repeatable game out of it.
Yeah, and the other thing I'd like really is just like better map generation, because it's just got a random map generator, and as always with random map generators, I don't think it's as good as it could have been. It's mainly the way the resources spawn in like the patches, because I've been messing around with the options you do have, which are like the density of the resource versus the size of the patch and stuff. Because the trouble is, like, if you make the resource patches really small and dense, you can't fit as many mines on them, so you can't get as much resource per second, but you can mine it for a long time. And it's like there's a very precise balance you want with that, because it's mainly to do with like when you're building railway networks out to faraway mining deposits. It's like you want to do that because that's like something to do in the mid game. It's like expand your rail network and build stations and manage your trains, but you want to do that infrequently enough that you want the mines to last a certain amount of time, so you don't have to like build one station, build another one, and then realize that the first one's already run out, so you have to go disassemble that and then build another one. Oh no, then the second one's run out. It's like you want them to last a little while, but not too long, to make it so you never have to build anymore.
Right, yeah.
So that's sort of a balancing issue that I don't know, I've been messing with the options, and I think maybe it's better to have like large deposits that don't have so much resource in like density. But then that becomes a problem of like, then it's really tempting to just build a load of mines and strip it really quickly, but then that's not actually what you want. You don't want it to be stripped too quickly, but you do want to build a certain amount of mines at a station to make it actually worthwhile, I guess. Because if you're not producing a certain number of ore chunks per second or whatever, it like you don't fill up your trains, and it seems really weird. Like be like having this train that's hauling around virtually nothing.
Yeah, that was always the transport tycoon problem, I suppose. Was
Yeah.
trying to sort that out to be as much efficient as possible.
Particularly in like late game transport tycoon, where you were building like multiple factories per station to just like ramp up the production super high, so you could support even more trains and even faster trains.
It's hard to know where the focus should be with this. Like, do they? Because this kind of stuff, as you say, sounds very transport tycoony, and perhaps there's a that has proved in the past that there's ways of making that style of logistics management sort of entertaining and interesting, and make a game out of it. Until you figure out the best ways of doing things. But then that, the worry here is that combined with the combat and defense element, perhaps they've spread themselves too thin in terms of like what does as a result does neither element become interesting enough? Or...
Well, I feel like there's opportunity in this game to make not necessarily the combat more important, but like there's already this sort of element of environmental damage. Like the pollution you're putting out causes the enemies to evolve over time to the harder versions, and also like the pollution where it blows with the wind across the landscape, it gets absorbed by trees, and then the trees die off over time, and as the pollution spreads across the landscape, when the pollution reaches the enemy bases, that's basically what causes them to aggro and like start sending attack squads in. So there already is this sort of system of pollution and stuff, and I feel like that might be an opportunity to do something else as a thing to overcome. Like
it'd be neat if the certain types of pollution interacted with certain enemies in different ways, perhaps.
Well, and just like the landscape as well.
Yeah,
like actually.
That'd be really neat, like if you mutated something in a specific way because the pollution that you've put out in the wind or something affects this particular enemy in a certain way, and it's like, well, you might want to avoid your pollution wafting over this hive of stuff or something because that will be real bad.
Well, I mean, and then it's sort of whether you can control it or not. But I mean, to actually have it so like, I don't know, if you could make it so pollution affected your base in some way, maybe even like highly polluted areas make production lower or something, so you'd actually have a reason to lay out your base in maybe separate bases, even where it's like this is where all the polluting power plant is going to be, but then I'll run the factories over here in the middle of this forest, so the trees help absorb the pollution or something.
The pollution is so bad that it's corroding your walls.
I don't know. There's possibilities that they could expand that system somewhat, and the same for like water as well. Because at the moment, if you need water, you can basically stick a pipe in the tiniest 4x4 square of water, and it will last forever. And it's like, I don't know, maybe they could make it so that small pools dry out or something, or refill at a certain rate.
Yeah, interesting.
Because water is basically an infinite resource as it stands. You just like shove the pipe into a lake, and then you're set.
Yeah, interesting. Who knows? There's plenty of directions they could go with, but it's still, don't know at this point.
It's still a bit early. It's only 0.12, whatever that means.
Fair enough. We'll give them the benefit of the doubt for now.
And
Factorio.
also, this was another game that I hadn't played multiplayer until this last patch, and really the multiplayer was not very functional until this last patch, but it seems to work pretty good, so that's good. Although also having multiple people playing a game like that, in some ways, it's one of those things. You get it a little bit in Terraria where you're building towns and stuff, but it's just like you kind of just want to do it yourself because you always think you know best. It's like I'd lay out this factory like this, and then you look at what this other person has been building for a while, and you're like, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah. You're just making this worse for everyone.
So to some extent in Factorio, we were sort of partitioning off what we were doing. It's like I was building the power plant where it was like getting oil and stuff and converting it into fuel, while they were doing some other things elsewhere, which is sort of weird in some ways. But also, it's I think the other trouble with multiplayer is now that you have multiple people, at a certain point it just becomes like resource overload because you've got two people extracting resources basically.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
So it's really easy to make a whole ton of stuff real fast. And then everything is even less of a threat.
Balancing.
Yes. So we'll see what happens. I think at least they're continuing to update. Occasionally update, but at least consistently update their blog. It's not quite the same as Space Engineers, which continues to update every Thursday with actual content. Haven't played that in a while.
That's pretty impressive, though.
Yeah. So that's that. I think that's pretty much all I played.
Cool. Games.
Usual lack of stuff from Dan.
Oh yeah, I'm playing Grand Theft Auto.
Yeah,
20 hours so far. Yeah, nearly at the end. I think I'm getting towards. I did that whole Polito Bay score. That was fun. It was probably ran a bit better than on the 360. I remember it being a bit overwhelming, the amount of carnage going on when I first played it. But on PC, super nice. And lots of carnage and crashing helicopters and shooting the shit out of things with Gatling guns and smashing things down with bulldozers and stuff. Yes.
Fair enough.
Yeah, so that was cool. Yeah, it's going alright.
Going alright.
I don't know what's going to be next on my list. Maybe I should play the South Park game. Don't know. I want something. Yeah, I still haven't played the Assassin's Creed game, but I don't really feel in a piratey mood. But maybe I should get into a piratey mood.
Yeah. Oh, they do say Black Flag is a good one. So
yeah.
It's still currently free on Xbone.
Well, there you go.
I see that the game with gold for this month on Xbone is Ground Zeroes.
Oh, really?
Like Metal Gear 5 Ground Zero, so I might give that a go.
Yeah, definitely. Because it won't take more than 20 minutes or something.
Yeah, I don't know how long it is. Well, it'll take a while to do all the challenges.
Yeah, it'll take a while. I think that looks cool.
Yeah, get a feel for what MGS5 is supposed to be. Anyway.
Yeah, it'd be worth a try.
It's not the Xbone version is not the ideal one in a sense because both the PC and PS4 versions are doing some graphical stuff that the Xbone version doesn't.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there's some stuff
Not
about
much,
like the PS4 version, like they do some kind of atmosphere simulation on the PS4 and PC that they can't do on the Xbone because there's just not enough power there. So I think it's like what that means is I think things like the clouds and stuff are somewhat simulated, and that affects the lighting of the game and stuff like that as a result.
Cool. And that sounds cool. Yeah. Okay. Well.
So it may not be the ideal version, but gameplay wise, they're all the same. So.
Yeah, it'd be the same. Yeah, give it a try. That'd be cool.
Ground Zeroes. So what else is happening on the site? Zach and I did a recording of us playing Blur.
2 recordings, because we did Blur and Blocks That Matter.
And we've done Blocks That Matter as well. Yeah, I was coming to that. But it's the Blur multiplayer I was super hyped for.
Well, we didn't actually know whether the PC version had split screen, but it turned out it did, so that was good.
Yeah. So those will be added to the queue eventually. I'm still struggling with the Big the Cat episode. I've got
it's almost legendary now. It's like, when is this episode ever going to come out? And then it's going to be really disappointing because it's not actually that great, I guess.
Well, no, because it's Big the Cat. It's following in Johnson John's footsteps in a way. It's like it's the Duke Nukem Forever of Happy Salad videos.
Really?
Yeah, so I might give up on that soon because I'm building up a bit of a backlog now, like just trying to deal with this one.
Well, as long as you at least release one every 2 weeks or whatever.
Yeah, I know. I've been a little bit lax of late, but I'm getting ready for a wedding and stuff.
Indeed.
Yeah, Name's pulling a face of you're not doing anything. Lol. I'll just assume I got away with that.
Okay, you're fine. It's all good. 2 more weeks. You get through.
2 more weeks, which means there'll probably be no podcast.
Yeah, so I'm afraid you may miss the podcast next time, but
or just record a podcast at the wedding on a phone.
I don't think we'll be doing that. So, not if Naomi has anything to do with it. Or me.
5 minute stealth podcast.
Yeah, Zach just goes and does one on his own.
Update. Yeah. Indeed. Cool. How are we doing for time? We're early. Well, that's unusual. We've been way over so much recently. Maybe we should wrap this one early.
Maybe that's why. We've just finally we've all just been playing the same things for a while.
Yeah, finally. It has calmed down. Well,
I was making a concerted effort to be slightly more concise in my description.
It's all worked out.
Well, you couldn't really talk about South Park, so
Well, that's true. Yeah, South Park is all about its content and,
spoilers.
Yeah, spoilers.
Well, there you are. So stay tuned for the Blur videos on the YouTube channel and on the site.
In about 2 months' time, probably.
Probably. Or what other content we've got coming out. We've got some good stuff up at the moment, so check it out. We've got
always
the season 4
stuff.
Outtakes. We've got Binding of Isaac video. Check that shit out. And join us after our slight break in a few weeks' time for another Saladcast. Indeed. And wish Rob luck for his wedding.
Yes.
Cheers,
It's time for the largest bomb in speech giving, I'm sure.
I
mean, like bomb as in failure. But yeah.
Bomb.
Not like dropping the mic style bombs. It's like, yo.
You might have to drop the mic regardless.
Yeah. Depends whose mic it is.
Yeah, that's true.
Maybe I'd buy a mic just to drop it.
Just to drop it. Yeah. Really
just hide a pillow on the floor under your table.
Yeah.
But then it will make a dunk sound.
Dunk.
It makes some kind of noise.
That's true. Cool. Yeah. Thanks for joining us for this Saladcast, and we'll catch you next time for some more craziness.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Zach's still not going to do anything, is he? He even left a pause.